In the late 19th and early 20th century, Havana became a prosperous and fashionable city. Havana's theaters featured the most distinguished actors of the age, and prosperity amongst the burgeoning middle class led to expensive new classical mansions. During this period, Havana became known as the Antillean Paris. Waking up in Havana feels wondrous, even surreal. Time seems to have stopped. From the look of the cars, or what's left of them, it's the 1950s. And nobody is hurrying to work. The hush of dawn lasts until 10 in the morning, when the grocery stores finally open. Detroit City is located to the north of USA, at the border with Canada. It cannot be called totally abandoned, since about 600,000 people still live there. More than half of the population is struggling to survive. A lot of the districts of the city are not available for living, and people left them. 1950 was the year when the population of Detroit reached its maximum, almost 2 million people. It was a popular city, and a lot of people were striving to come here to get employed at the plants. In 1960, the workers began to leave the city and started living outside Detroit. At the same time, prices for real estate began to drop. The breaking point were a number of crises, which started in the second half of 20th century. It led to closure of most of the plants. Varasha is an abandoned southern quarter of the Cypriot town of Famagusta, whose inhabitants fled during the 1974 war in Cyprus. The area was sealed off by the invading Turkish forces and has remained so ever since. It appears to be frozen in time, the clothes still on the racks in the shops, homes and holiday apartments untouched for nearly 50 years. Some of the lights were even left on in the buildings for years after the evacuation. In the early 1970s, Famagusta was the #1 tourist destination in Cyprus. This Pennsylvania town was like any other. Until in 1962, the coal mine below it caught fire and, over the years, caused buildings to crack and sinkholes to appear. People started to leave, and now Centralia is like an apocalyptic film set, cracked and graffitied buildings, buckled roads, and occasional smoke rising from beneath the cemetery. 30 years later, the state declared Centralia condemned, and now you can't even get mail service here. This 20-acre island in the Bronx, nestled between Rikers Island and the Bronx, is home to no one, just herons. Up until 1964, the island housed Riverside Hospital and its patients, particularly those who were highly contagious. And although the New York City Parks Department oversees the property, it's not inhabited yet. There have been proposals by architects and politicians for using the space, but nothing's flown yet. Most people have never heard of this town, but it's the ancestral home of Adolf Hitler's parents. In 1938, after Germany took control of Austria, Hitler ordered the townspeople to be forcibly evacuated and the village blown to bits. Why he did so remains a mystery, but some suspect that it was an effort to cover up part of his life story. When Chernobyl nuclear power plant's nuclear disaster occurred in 1986, it was the death of this northern Ukraine community. Not everyone died, but all 50,000 residents had to evacuate. Many suffered from acute radiation sickness as a result of exposure to high levels of radiation during the accident. As recently as 30 years ago, there were 28,000 people living here. But the Nagorno-Karabakh War in 1993 forced them to flee. Many of the former homes are ruined thanks to all that gunfighting, and the Agdam Mosque is a mere shell.